All right, everyone. So in today's episode, we're going to break down the trades from this morning. I am locking up a green day just under my daily goal, which is not bad for a Friday. And I had my expectations set pretty low today. When I first looked at my gap scanner this morning, I saw that we had a stock up 150%. I was like, that's awesome. But as soon as I looked at the chart on my phone, I realized I'm not going to be able to trade it. Why? Well, the move actually started after hours. It was last night at 4 p.m. The stock starts squeezing up and actually went up about 200%. And so as I looked at it, it's at 150%. It's actually pulled back off the high. And, well, the clean move was yesterday at 4 p.m. At this point, if I decide to trade it, I'd be trading the backside of the move. And although it could go higher, most likely it's going to be choppy. So that left me with the second leading gapper, which was only up about 20%. And I knew at that point, this was probably going to be a really slow day. So when I came over here, I set the expectation that this might be a no trade day. And I was pretty content with that. On my first trade, I lost $400. I go into the red, not deep red, but red. Second trade, I'm up $200. So now I'm down about 230 on the day. All right, 2 trades in, 50% accuracy, inverted profit loss ratio, bigger loser, smaller winner. Not great. Let's pull up the P&L. As I sit right now, I'm up $4,849.74. Not bad, but I actually peaked at just under $7,000. So I gave back about 30% of my profit today. That's a little bit more to give back than I'd like, but I'll walk you through how it happened and the trades I took. So let's go back to the very beginning. First trade of the day, adtx. And I'm actually green on the 3 out of the 3 stocks I traded today, which is pretty good. adtx, this is a stock it's been in play a couple of times in the last few weeks. You can see it's got a recent reverse split right here. I'll adjust this to auto. Well, let's see, it's tough because the 200 moving average is screwing it up. So this stock did a reverse split, and then it ends up trading, a couple million shares of volume each one of these days. So it's got a decent amount of volume, but that sometimes creates a little bit of problem because you have now already bag holders who have been buying but not getting the resolution that they wanted. Most people who are looking at a stock like this, it's basically at all-time lows at the time of the reverse split. People are looking to buy this for that 50 to 100%, 200% move off the lows. That's sort of that typical reverse split setup that we like. But this one hasn't been giving it. Today, even with 30 plus million shares of volume, it's still not giving it. So, unfortunately, we're not getting that follow through. Now, this morning, when it first popped up on the scans, I looked at it and I thought, all right, adtx squeezing up, I should probably keep an eye on it. So my first trade on it was actually right after this big green candle here. I bought at $2.19. It hits a high of $2.32, 10 cents a share profit. I didn't take it off the table. Hits a high of $2.33 and then it drops. So I ended up stopping out of that first trade for a loss. And I was a little bit annoyed. I was like, man, this thing is not easy at all. But I ended up getting back in. I got back in about 2 minutes later, and I took a little dip trade, and I made back $200. So that was all right in this area right here. So 2 trades right in this little, this little area. All right, so the first trade was right inside this big green candle. Second trade was actually this little dip here, and so it's sort of like all basically right in here. My drawing tool's struggling a little bit. All right, so we got that squeeze up. Little dip here. I stopped out of the first trade, lost, and then I added back right here. First candle to make a new high, and it was a tiny winner because it didn't work. Drops the second time. All right, so then it goes basically sideways for a while. And I'm thinking, well, as it's going sideways, this stock is out of play. I'm probably not going to get any more trades on it. So, it is what it is. It's a little bit of a bummer, but no big deal. So while it's going sideways, benf pops up. And boy, this one was a grinder. It was really tricky. Got my first trade on benf at $2. So I finally broke the ice up here when it broke over $2 a share. So it's kind of like grinding higher, higher, higher. But finally I took a trade that broke over 2. And on this one, even though we didn't get a huge move, it was enough to make, $1,200. So it goes from 2 all the way up here to a high of about 230. So at that point, I was up about 1,000 on the day. And I was like, all right, hey, that's good. Green day on Friday, can't complain too much. And then out of nowhere, and this really was out of nowhere, Ford pops up on our scanner. So FORD is the stock that I'm up the most on, but only 2,800 bucks. So Ford hits our scanners. I pull it up and immediately, so the first thing is when it hit the scanner, it was a little bit of a funny time of the morning. Now, if a stock hits my scanner right at 8:30, 9, top bottom of the hour, I'm going to think it's got news. But this hit the scanner at like 9:17, sort of a weird time. So I was like, I don't know if there's a headline on this that's causing the spike. It ends up going up to 470. It pulls back, and as it pops right through here, I added, as it broke 470, getting filled at 478, 1,500 shares, and then I got a 10-share partial fill, 70 shares partial fill on my order for the break of 5. So I'm in with 1,570 shares. All right, I'll take it. The stock ends up going up to $6. So I take it off the table. That's $1,500 on that first trade. It dips down. It pops up to 640, which was impressive. It pulls back a little bit. It pops up again here to 6. And then at the open, check this out. It dips down. It pops up to 35. And then it screams back up right here into a halt. It opens. I got a nice dip right down here off of 525. It springs back up to 566. I took my profit. It dips down again. I bought off of $5, which was whole dollar support. I'm in at 511, and it squeezes back up here to 560 and actually goes all the way up to a high of 575. So as it peaked up there, I was up at that moment just under 7,000 on the day. That was kind of my high. That was my high watermark. But unfortunately, I gave back that profit. And I gave back that profit on Ford as we came back up here. Now, even though we came back up, I gave back my profit on 2 losses. One loss was right here. And I bought the dip at 605 for the first 1-minute candle to make a new high. I'll zoom this in. It was this candle right here, that false breakout candle. So I added right there. And it drops down right there. So I got stopped out on that candle, unfortunately. And then I got back in right here for the break over 6, and I got stopped out a second time. So I gave back 2,000 bucks, basically 1,000 bucks on each one of those trades. So I went from 6,800 to 5,800, then to 4,800. At that point, I was like, all right, you know what? That's enough of that. I don't need to lose anymore. And I was a little disappointed because I was giving back a little bit more than I wanted. I think as we came into the open, I was already up 5,700. So I added an extra $1,000 of profit at the open, and then I gave back everything I added, which means this week in total, in net, I really didn't produce a lot of profit after the open. Now, part of that was because I've been staying pretty disciplined about not trading too aggressively past the open just because my metrics haven't supported it. But it's just a little discouraging that the trades between, we'll do 30-minute window, the trades from 9 to 9:30, so 9:30 to 10 and 10 to 10:30 was only about $1,600 of profit. And then today I lost 1,000 during this window. So really, and this is just for the week or the last 14 days. So I've got about $20,000 of profit. But as it turns out, only about 500 of that will be from after the market opened. Now, it's not to say there weren't opportunities after the open, because there were, but a couple issues. Number one, because I start early, I start running out of, I guess, willpower to stay disciplined. I can only kind of be like in the zone for so long before I start to be apt to make just kind of like, like unforced errors, just like fumbling, just stupid stuff. And then secondly, we've just sort of noticed on a lot of these stocks that they've been cleaner on the first move and then they get choppier later on, and the first moves tend to be pre-market. So anyways, I am a little bummed out that I had what was the best day of the week, and I did give that up. But I'm also grateful that I walked away before I gave back more and before I hit one of my triggers that really require me to walk. I didn't give back half my profit. I obviously didn't hit max loss. I didn't have 3 big losers, a couple losses, which was a bummer, but nothing too catastrophic. So I was able to hold it together relatively well here to finish the week. Now, PEV was the stock I mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, which had this nice move after hours. Sort of similar, situation here where, look, that was an awesome move right there from 30 cents up to $1.10. You love to see that. And if you sat down and, this is where you sat down right here, well, you missed the move. So you can overtrade the backside here, overtrade, or just wait for the next one because there'll always be another one around the corner. So I didn't touch PEV, no trades on that. Got some trades on BENF, as I mentioned, peaked at about 230, pulling back now. Got some trades on Ford. And then ADTX, let's go back to this one. ADTX, I ended up getting redemption on this one at the open. Now, actually, right, I forgot about that. So, I got some profit on ADTX at the open, but I guess that was offset by the losses on Ford. So I think I am net negative on Ford since the open, but net positive on ADTX since the open. So at the open, ADTX finally pulls away. It was like having such a hard time pre-market. It didn't want to break. It just kept like hitting resistance and then dropping, hitting resistance and dropping. And it was getting really annoying. And then finally at the open, this thing takes off. So here's how I traded it at the open. It starts hitting my scanners. It starts squeezing up and I'm looking for a pullback. I bought this pullback right here at 55. So right there, I was in at 55. We got that squeeze up to 65, 75. Then we got up to 80. Then we got up to 90, topping tail. And I thought that might be it. I don't know. And then I got back in right here for the break over 3. And you can see that was a false breakout. So was up about 1,200 on it, but gave back a little profit off the top. And then tried to add back again up here at about 305 and gave back a little profit off the top on that. So yeah, peaked at about 1,200, maybe 1,500 on ADTX, and then gave back a little off the top. None of my trades today, though, are going to set any records. Nothing was crazy good. Nothing was crazy bad. It was just kind of just sort of a regular day. So $4,800, that's not bad. It's a nice little green day, and I'm grateful for it. I mean, I'm happy to be starting the month with, a couple of nice days. And this is something I was kind of thinking about. If we look at month to date, this month, I mean, obviously, we're only 3 days in. Well, I guess 4 days in. Today's the 4th. So this is going to put me up a little over, 13,000 on the month so far. All right, weekly goal is 15,000 a week. So technically, if we look at the week, I did hit the weekly goal based on including Monday. So if we include, well, it doesn't include it here because it's the end of, anyways, if we include Monday, and today, I do have 15,000 on the week. But now, wait a second. Yeah, so, and that was my small account, which I'll do a recap for separately. But anyways, that's fine. So yeah, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then there'll be some more profit here for Friday from the big account. So, starting the week, starting the month, trying to build a little bit of a cushion. And then what that means is that going into next week, if we see some better setups, I can take a little bit more risk knowing that even if I have a loss, it hopefully won't put me red on the month. It'll be a little setback, but nothing too serious. But coming into today, before I made this 4,000, I was thinking to myself, look, it's the beginning of the month. It's a Friday. Yesterday was really slow. We're probably not likely to see any companies putting out any crazy good headlines here today. So what are we going to get for setups? Maybe some technical breakouts, some follow through, continuation. Well, maybe, but usually that would be if the market's strong. The market's not really that strong right now. It's a little colder. So I said, this might be a no trade day. And if that's the case, that's totally okay. So from what was possibly a no trade day, going red 400, no big deal. And I was telling myself, look, hey, take your first red day here of the month. Just take the red day, let it be a red day. And that's not a bad thing because when you have a red day early in the month, immediately you don't have to worry about having a no red month, getting that kind of like, bee in your bonnet that you want it to be green every single day. So I was kind of like, look, if you're down, and even when I was down 200, I was like, look, you're down 200. I think after the next trade, I was down only like 130. So I was like, look, you're down $130. Who cares? Just call it a day. Call it a tiny red day. Break the green streak because the green streaks can throw you off sometimes, and just it is what it is. And then at 9:17, Ford. Then we had BENF. So BENF got a couple trades, was up $1,000, and was still like, small green day, that's fine. And then we had Ford, and boom, all of a sudden it was like game time. Now Ford had no news. And this was something that I was a little bit hesitant about. So the news desk, we have a news desk that posts news alerts, and it said traders circulating mentioned that Ford is a newsletter alert. So, there's newsletters out there. I traditionally think of like Jim Cramer and some of these CNBC investors that have newsletters. They'll tell you when they buy, they'll tell you when they sell, and they send out an email and, a text to all these people. And so, when they put out an alert, there'll be people that buy that stock. And, that's fine. That's going to happen. Now, the way I kind of looked at that is this is a stock that basically has no catalyst, has no news, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, this volume comes in. So I didn't think it was news when it first hit because it was at an odd time of the morning. And then once I saw that it was a newsletter alert, I was like, see, that's a little bit of a problem because, if this stock had a high level of short interest, suddenly having it squeeze up, 50% or 100% can force short covering. But this doesn't have particularly high short interest. I checked and it's not that high. So I'm thinking, all right, well, it's probably not going to trigger a big short squeeze. This isn't a GameStop. And there may be some shorts that think, well, it's a kind of temporary move. It's probably going to come back down. So I was a little bit like, all right, I'll trade the price action on the front side of the move, but I don't want to overstay my welcome. So not surprising that it rejected, but it did, it obviously rallied back up a little bit here, which was nice to see, but couldn't make its way through new high of day. So with that, I said, all right, it is what it is. The way I trade, I don't put out trade alerts in that traditional sense. We don't do text or email alerts at Warrior Trading. Of course, I'm trading in real time, and so you guys can listen to me trade. But I don't just search for any stock or a stock that maybe meets a daily setup and then just out of nowhere buy it. I only trade stocks that are already moving. So that's kind of the key criteria of a momentum trader, is that we're jumping on momentum. So the momentum already has to be starting. Now, I could be jumping in at the very beginning, which is fine. Breaking news or something like this that hits my scanner and very quickly, very early on, I'm jumping in it, that's fine. But I have to see something starting to move in order for me to be interested. That's kind of like my basic requirement. So anyways, jumped on Ford, got a couple trades on that, $2,800, bit more thinly traded, couldn't take big size, even got slippage and only a 70 share partial fill on one of my orders. BENF had no problem taking bigger size on it, but it's got how much volume today? Over 60 million already. So 87 million shares already. But it's not moving that much. It's not volatile enough. And then adtx, this one was just tricky. It finally pulled away, but it was a little hard to trust after all those false breakouts pre-market. I don't know. It's just sort of funny. And now at this point of the day, this stocks that are hitting the scanner now, do they have news? No. Are they newsletter alerts or something like that? I mean, maybe. And you never know. Traders get bored. And if a stock keeps hitting the scanner, people may jump on it and that can become a technical breakout. If it does have high short interest, shorts might start covering. So, you can get those technical moves, but this is a time of day where volume is waning. And, if you just look at the pattern, you could look at the overall market, but you'll notice pretty much every day, today we had some economic news on the S&P that came out at 8:30, so that's pushed the market higher. But most days it's like nothing pre-market and then new, volume at the open, first hour, declining, and then maybe picking back up for power hour or at, a time where economic data comes out. So that's kind of the daily cycle. Volume in the morning, and then it tapers. Volume in the morning, then it tapers, and a little bit of volatility going into the close, depending on the day. So I don't expect a lot of volatility going into the close today. It's a Friday. So most people are kind of, battening down the hatches for the weekend, and we'll be back at it bright and early on Monday morning. So by the way, those of you guys who have not already checked out my free class, I will put a link, post it in the top of the comments and link it in the description, where you can watch a free class that I've taught. It'll teach you more about my strategy so you can learn a little bit more about how I trade. And those of you guys who watch the class can get a download of How to Day Trade the Plain Truth. So this is a copy of my book. All right, so I hope you guys check that out. And I'll remind you as always, look, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. So manage your risk, take it slow. And I'll see you guys back here on Monday morning. But I do have some uploads coming this weekend. So make sure you are hopefully subscribed to the channel so you can get the alert when those uploads go live. All right, I'll see you guys first thing Monday morning.